Coffee Stain just dropped another Update 6 video covering changes made to the equipment system in Update 6, and with it we're getting new recipes, which has left me wondering, will we be able to recycle nuclear waste to create mini nuke Nobelisk? But more on that shortly. Snut jumped in with an update to beacons to cover our concerns over recipe changes, and the good news is we don't need to worry just yet. Any recipes requiring beacons may just not need beacons anymore, or further down the line there may be some recipe changes, but we'll find out about that later. We can still produce beacons in the workshop, but by placing them they now go invisible, becoming a marker in-game, which we talked about in last week's video. You can find it in the cards above. And as a heads up, any beacons that we currently have in game will be changed to markers when Update 6 comes. We then get into the heart of the video, which is the equipment changes. Now I'm sure everyone will be happy to see our character now has more body slots available to play around with, allowing us to use Blade Runners and then the jetpack at the same time, or for that matter the gas mask as well. It's also worth noting that the new UI changes can be seen displayed in the bottom left, and they look pretty clean to me. Snut also mentioned that the items haven't been balanced to work with multiple slots yet, so they'll be a little bit OP at first, but you can expect some changes to that later on. You can also see on the HUD as you scroll through your handheld slots, and this is also noted in the bottom left icon as well. And finally, we're able to holster our items or weapons using H, which I cannot tell you how long I've waited for this moment. We then have changes to ammo types. Now these can be opened by holding R down to open the radial dial to select different ammunition. The rebar gun now has regular ammunition, stun ammunition which does a small amount of damage and stuns the enemy temporarily. We then have the shatter rebar rounds which scatter rebars like a shotgun, though this doesn't have damage decrease over range like most shooters. The rebars do scatter, so only a few rounds may hit the enemy, thus doing less damage. And we then have the explosive rebar rounds, which are great for doing higher damage. I'm telling you, the rebar gun is OP in this game. I love it. When it comes to the explosive rebar rounds, though we can't see the resources required, I'm just going to assume that they're going to use Nobelisk along with the regular rebars, and these will be producible in the assemblers. The rifle now has an extended magazine of 15 rounds and also sounds much better. Another point to note is the stack size has increased also to 500 as well, so it makes sense using it more. We also have the turbo rounds, which have a much higher capacity magazine holding 75 rounds and can be used like a machine gun. But there is also a spread when firing, so like most guns, conserve your ammo and use short bursts. Our third ammunition type are the homing rounds for enemies, where shooting in the vicinity of an enemy will home in on them, which is great if you struggle with first-person shooters, and I'm pretty certain that they said further down the line they do plan on having a passive or peaceful mode to the game. I know a lot of you guys want that, but don't expect that for Update 6. I also really like the change in the color of the magazines to let you know what rounds you've selected, and another thing that I really love is our lo-fi copyright-free music, which you can find on our Spotify or also on YouTube Music. The link is below. Now, continuing with the different ammunitions, we then have Nobelisk, and there's some pretty cool additions to this. First off, we have the normal Nobelisk followed by the Pulse Nobelisk, which pushes enemies away and allows you to do rocket-style jumps by exploding them mid-jump. They also do no damage, so they're perfect for playing with your favorite pet. By the looks of it, these will be requiring oscillators and Nobelisk to produce, so make sure you've got some factories running oscillators for that. We then have Cluster Nobelisk, which creates a cluster of explosions, great for getting rid of foliage, although the secondary explosives didn't seem to get rid of the other trees, but it still produces more of an explosion, which is cool, but I think I'll be using a different type of Nobelisk for that. Snut has mentioned also that Gas Nobelisk is coming to the game. Does this suggest possibly that we're going to be able to harvest gas soon? And more importantly, if that's the case, how soon? Though I doubt it'll come in update 6, it might be a nice little surprise for us. Who knows? Finally, we're shown the Fat Man style mini nuke, or mini Nobelisk. No, it's not, it's Nuke Nobelisk, which provides a much bigger bang. But thankfully, no radiation seems to be lingering. With it being a Nuke Nobelisk though, does this point to it being produced from the nuclear produce tree? And if so, will we be able to use nuclear waste to create the ammunition? Let me know what your thoughts are in regards to that in the comments below. Going back to the inventory, the UI now shows the damage the ammunition does, and we can also see various recipes. But note the Nobelisk requiring biomass for some reason is probably just a placeholder. We also have an expanded recipe selection, which allows us to select the amount that we produce, and subsequently we will be given the required inputs for that. We're also able to add our own notes to the game, which is an interesting change. I actually really like it because it's going to be great for adding rules for dedicated servers and the likes. And there we are. Special thanks does go to our TotalXclipse patrons, The Calamity, Cerebral Tag, James Irwin, Jerry2, Pobcac, and Firefless, as well as our Lunars, Dixie Chris, Lord of Delight, and Ben, as well as our Blood Moon of the day, which today is Papa Snoozy. Until next time, as always, ciao for now.